If you're considering moving to Austin, this video is for you. Austin is a super hot city. So many people are moving here from all over, especially the West Coast. And I feel like I have a unique position of being born and raised about an hour outside of Austin, moving to the West Coast for 6 years, and then moving back here and being able to kind of honestly assess the really good things about it and the not so good things about it. So this is going to be a very honest video of the best parts and the worst parts of moving to Austin, so that if you're considering it, you know the true pros and cons from someone that's experienced both. I went ahead and consulted a few other people that have been here for their whole life or quite a while or moved around to get a pretty well-rounded list of pros and cons. Some of these things are more obvious, and some, honestly, they had great points. I had never thought about it that way and added it to this list. So hopefully you'll hear a couple of things you hadn't heard before. We're gonna start with the pros because honestly, Austin is an amazing city. People are moving here for a reason. It has a lot going for it, but then we'll get to the cons. First things first, this is a pro for me. Austin is a young city. It has a lot of young people. And so if you're in this demographic and you're in this age range, it's really easy to go out and make friends. People are out doing things all the time. Now, maybe if you're in the older demographic, that could be a con for you. Any pro could be someone's con, but for me, it's really fun to be here in your 20s and your 30s. It's kind of like the college experience I never got. At least me living in an apartment, everybody is in their 20s. And so it just is a really fun experience, different from a lot of the other places that I visited. One thing that really stands out about Austin to me, especially in a state like Texas, is Austin very much cares about their health. It is such a healthy city, which comes with a lot of perks. So many healthy grocery stores. There's Sprouts and Whole Foods everywhere, of course, but you can also find a lot of smaller markets that carry every health food that you could ever think of. There's also a lot of farmers markets, which in Texas I feel like is harder to find because we don't have the climate like California to where farmers are just, producing things all year round. But Austin has a huge farmers market every weekend with 150 different vendors and other smaller ones throughout the week as well. You also have access to a lot of different health treatments, like different holistic doctors or acupuncture, yoga, all sorts of things, very easy to find. I think that that's just a lot more abundant here in the city. And we're gonna get into all of the activities that you can do in Austin as well, but people just really like to be active here to keep their bodies moving. And so the city really caters to that, and there's a lot going on. Austin is a very dietary restriction-friendly city. I think cities in general are becoming more aware of having vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, nut-free, dairy-free, soy-free, whatever options. I went to high school in San Antonio, and I still go back to San Antonio quite often. And San Antonio, for example, is light years behind a city like Austin. It is much more difficult for someone like me with celiac disease to find safe places to eat in other cities around Texas. And in Austin, I feel like there's an abundance of options, and servers seem to be a little more trained and educated on dietary restrictions and allergens, and we'll walk you through the menus I find more frequently. Something fun about Austin is it's very much a live music city. It's really easy to go to bars or restaurants and hear people playing music. And then of course, I feel like when bigger artists go on tour, they typically have a stop in Austin. We also have things like ACL, Austin City Limits, which is a big music festival where so many big artists come to. And ACL also has a venue downtown called ACL Live, which is year-round. People have shows there. And so if you're a music fan, it's not going to be as much as Nashville, but there's a lot of music here. A lot of people, when I ask them, what is your favorite part about Austin? They say just the scenic hills. A lot of cities here in Texas are pretty flat. There's not a lot going on geographically, but Austin, especially over on the west side, has big rolling hills, a lot of water features, which we'll talk about, but for a city, it is very scenic. And with a 20-30 minute drive, you can get to a lot of beautiful hiking trails, and there's just a lot to see, a lot of nature, a lot of outdoors, and that's really nice. And then, like I said, very active. There's so much to do. I live right on the big Lady Bird Lake Trail. That's a trail that I think is a 25-mile loop around the water. And the water runs right through downtown. So it's very accessible for people to hop on the trail. People are walking, biking all the time. Paddleboarding is really big here in Austin. Pickleball is really big here in Austin. We have a lot of parks like Zilker Park that people just go out and play volleyball and soccer. It's so active. There's a lot to do all the time. And it's fun. To go with that too, I think a reason why there is so much to do is Austin has a lot of space, especially compared to other cities that I've been to. It's more spread out. There's a lot of green space in like prime real estate locations like downtown. I don't know how it ended up that way, but I'm really thankful for that. And you also see a lot more space and things like beer gardens. Like there are a lot of different breweries and beer gardens in very central Austin that have huge outdoor patios with live music and bonfires and, cornhole and all sorts of different games. And I think that the water running through the heart of Austin is a very unique feature. You get that in other cities like Nashville yet again, but I think a lot more people are out on this water. They're kayaking, they're paddleboarding, they're renting boats, they're doing all sorts of things. You see a lot of rowing teams going by. It's just so much to do, so much space, so much land. A good pro that was not my thought was Austin is very centrally located to a lot of picturesque, cute, small towns. So it's really easy to take just a day trip. Just drive 1 to 2 hours to cute little small towns all around Texas, go antiquing. There's a lot of vineyards and wineries very nearby, so you could do a whole winery weekend. There's a lot that you can do without having to stay the night somewhere, and you feel like you can explore very easily. There's even natural springs. There's a lot within a 2-hour radius or less. Okay, big pro for me is Austin is very dog friendly. Hello, Mix. I would say 85% of people that I know here in Austin have a dog. It's very easy to take your dog to restaurants on the patio. There's even cute things like big co-working, like outdoor dog parks with coffee shops. You get a coffee, you go sit there with your computer, and they have people watching the dogs so the dogs can play while you work. There's just a lot for dogs here, and that's fun. Nothing like going to Zilker Park at sunset and watching all the dogs just play, because I think they're allowed off leash there. Whether they're allowed or not, there's always a ton of dogs off leash, and they're all just running around playing. It's very wholesome, honestly. Something that's great about Austin is downtown really is not very corporate. I feel like if you go into cities like Dallas, Houston, when you get downtown, it really just feels corporate. It feels like people come here to work and then they leave because there's not much else to do. But Austin, on the other hand, is very approachable. There's a lot of cute things. There's shops, there's restaurants, there's bars. I think not as many people work from downtown here in Austin. I don't know if it's just post-COVID. A lot of people work from home, but downtown is like a spot that I go for fun, just to walk around, go get a nice dinner, do all sorts of things. And I think that is a special and unique part of Austin. Of course, a huge perk, and this is one of the obvious ones, this is why most people move here, is there's no state income tax in Texas. And I think that Austin has a lot of similar culture points to West Coast cities that doesn't have the price tag of the state income tax. And especially the more money you earn, the more that really plays into people's decisions. So that's why a lot of business owners and, high rollers choose to move off of the West Coast and into Texas. And Austin's just, I think, a more diverse city than a lot of the other cities here in Texas, so it attracts more people from the West Coast that are used to that. I feel like the general vibe of Austin is also very accepting. Like, people seem to be very open-minded about accepting other people's religions or way of life. You have a lot of good, different, various types of cuisines everywhere. It's great. I really like that. And lastly, speaking of cuisines, my favorite part of Austin really is the food scene. I think we have a great food scene. A lot of people will argue that the best food scene in Texas is actually Houston. And I would say maybe for fine dining. But what I love about Austin is there's so much accessible, great food. Austin has a ton of food trucks, which is pretty unique and I think fun. There's food truck parks all around where you go and there's, 6, 10 different trucks with picnic tables in the center, and it's a fun way to go with friends and try a ton of different things. Everyone can find something that they like, and it's just easy and affordable and accessible. But also, there's not as many chain restaurants, which is great. I think people in Austin just don't really like that as much. So chain restaurants might not do as well here. So there's a lot more just like local one-off, two-off kind of restaurants, which I think is something that I'm really attracted to about Austin. But let's talk about the cons, because as with any city, there's pros, there's cons. The first one is restaurants are definitely more expensive than the other parts of Texas. Restaurants are pretty, not that far off from LA prices, in my opinion, when you go to like an actual sit-down restaurant. And apparently, same goes for drinks. I'm not very familiar with the drinking scene. I'm not a drinker. I don't go out and socially drink. But I was asking my friends and my family that do live here, what's like the general price for a cocktail in like a city like Dallas? And everyone seemed to say like $6 to $12 is pretty standard for a drink in another city. And then I said, okay, what's the standard price for a cocktail in Austin? And the range I got over and over was like $12 to $25 for a single drink. Now, of course, you can find happy hours, you can find cheaper spots, but that just seems to be the average based off of me polling people I know. And if you go out drinking a couple nights a week, that really adds up over the course of a year. So that's something to consider. Another con that you might not think about is Austin is the bachelorette party capital. There are so many bachelorette parties here. Yet again, another similar to Nashville, which it's funny that I feel like those two are cities that people are choosing to move to because there are a lot of similarities. Austin has less rain. That's a perk. Like I said, I don't go out very much, but when you go out, there will be a lot of bachelorette parties. So it's fun, it's cute, but it's everywhere. So that's something to consider. I think there's a misconception when people are in LA, in Seattle, and they're looking on Zillow at Austin house prices. They see affordable housing, but I'm gonna be totally bluntly honest here. A lot of the affordable houses are so far outside of Austin that people that live in Austin kind of don't even consider it to be Austin. They're like Pflugerville. They're on the outskirts. They're in suburbs. They're very detached from like the culture and like all the fun things more central Austin. You could still drive there if you're down to drive 45 minutes, but it's just not as much Austin as I think people out of town are expecting it to be. And I just am letting you know that in case you're buying a house and I don't want you to move here and be disappointed. Houses in like the exciting Austin-y parts of Austin really aren't that far off from West Coast prices. It's ridiculous. I was looking at houses earlier last year and I just decided not to because to find a standalone house, they're all $800,000 plus. And to find something that I could afford, it was gonna have to be a big fixer-upper. So you can find affordable housing compared to the West Coast or the East Coast, but it just might not be where you're expecting it to be. It might not look that far on a map, but it's pretty outside of Austin. Okay, weird con about Austin, there's really not a lot of good gyms. It is hard to find a good gym. They're kind of disappointing or pricey. I did a year going to Equinox, which is literally $200 a month, and it was a great gym, but like, I don't know, I'm used to going to like LA Fitnesses for $40 a month, and they're big and they have all the equipment, and that's just really hard to find here, which is surprising. I think that a lot of people do things outdoors like walk the trail, or they do like class pass and take actual yoga classes, Pilates classes, things like that, instead of just having a regular gym membership because it's harder to find. I would say, in my opinion, one of the biggest cons of Austin is the extreme weather with absolutely no pattern. It's just unpredictable. When I was living in LA, I would never open my weather app. I would never look at it. There was no need. Like, this is just this week, for example. I'm filming this video in February. We had a day this week where the temps were in the 30s. And we had a day this week where temps got up to 87, and it felt like summer in February. You never know what to expect. I have memories sunbathing on Christmas Eve growing up in Texas. I have memories being snowed in with no power or water. It's just like, you don't know what you're gonna get. Christmas Eve this year, apparently the building I'm living in now, a pipe burst and the building flooded because the freeze. So it's just all over the place. Another con has to do with weather, and that is just how hot summers are. This last year, I remember seeing a headline saying, Texas has reached a new record, 58 days in a row of triple-digit temperatures. And then I remember it still being very hot for like another month after reading that. So who knows, maybe it even surpassed 58 days in a row of surpassing triple-digit temperatures. But it's just so hot in the summer. You don't want to wear clothes. I don't even want to wear cap sleeves in the summer. I just want to wear tanks and shorts, and it's pretty miserable. Traffic in Austin is not great, I'll say. People complain about it a lot, and I'm sure if you're commuting to work, it's worse. I am self-employed, I work from home, so it's not as much of an issue for me, and I think LA is way worse. But as more and more people continue to move here, it does worsen the traffic. And like our major highway, I-35, can't be expanded, goes over the water. I don't really think that there's a lot of practical ways for the city to alleviate traffic. So I do just expect it to kind of get worse. And it can get bad depending on the time of day. A con for a lot of people is Austin has no pro sports teams. We have one pro soccer, Austin FC, and that is it. There's no baseball, there's no basketball, there's no football. There's college games, UT is here, but if you're into sports, there's not a lot for you here. I'm sorry, you gotta watch on TV. One good point that someone brought up is this is a city where you absolutely need a car. This is not a city where you can just really get by with walking, biking, Ubering. You could, it's just way harder here than other cities. It's not a walkable city, it is very spread out. There's a lot of space, like I said. So that's something to factor in. Maybe if you're considering moving here from New York or someplace similar, you'd also need to buy a car. So add that to the expense. Since Austin is such a growing city, a con is the constant construction. I considered moving to an apartment downtown, but there was just so much construction. It was loud, it was noisy. It's inconvenient, that's what it is. But it's necessary as the city grows. Apparently, I had heard when asking people about this video that the national bird of Austin is a crane. That's a joke that people say because you look at the skyline and there's just crane after crane after crane after crane of just continuous construction. And last, on a little bit of a lighter note, there's so many dang scooters. Why do we have so many scooters? There's birds, there's limes, there's everything everywhere. People litter the streets with them. It does make driving a little bit scarier because people might be going down the sidewalk when you're turning out of a parking lot and you might not see them. It's a little stressful, but they're fun to ride when you ride them. Austin is a very nightlife city too, though, and I feel like mixing 6th Street and Rainy Street, like all the drinking streets with scooters, is just, well, it's not a good combination. But so those are my honest pros and cons with consulting other people that live here. Hopefully it brought up something to think about that maybe you hadn't heard before. Maybe it just reiterated some things that you had heard and helped to solidify that decision. But Austin is a great city. If you can tolerate the cons, I think you should totally move here. But if any of those sound like too much, if you don't like heat, then do not move to Austin. Okay, I love y'all. Thanks for joining me. I hope you have the best rest of your day, and I will see you in a video very soon. So let's take all night, all night, all night, all night.